Hello, welcome on in. It is Sunday evening. I'm coming in here a little later than I had intended, but the humdrum of weekend activities were calling for it. I had some things I had to attend to here after a weekend of spring sports being in full swing and still trying to compress all the other to-do items in. So we enter in here to kick off this next week of April, the one that will conclude next weekend with our first post-eclipse lunation, the full moon in Libra, coming up next Saturday into Sunday, 12th, 13th. I'm coming on here on Sunday evening to tap into our collective energy to see what's coming forward. And I'm going to bring in the rainbow ray for upgrade and expansion from this beautiful bottle that is encompassing this energy of every color of the rainbow. And I love this one when there's a whole lot of stuff going on, because wherever you are, however you're coming in here, the color and the energy that is most needed is here for us to connect in with. And I'm feeling my candle's feeling a little sluggish. It's having a hard time getting going. The flame is a little low in there. So, for anybody that are feeling these effects, we're going to talk about some of the astrological weather for this week, which includes some retrograde planets stationing direct. Woohoo! Rhymes with Mercury. So we're going to talk about that in a moment, along with some other aspects that, when we kind of wind down a retrograde and the planet begins to station direct, we may feel an uptick in the effects of that retrograde. And then, of course, we have a post-shadow to contend with. But for the most part, the worst is over. And yet we may still be feeling a little bit of that low. As I say that, the candle just is like grinding to a halt of this energy of trying to get things going. So we're going to be tuning in here to our intuitively selected decks for the month. Of course, we have this beautiful stars edition of the Spring Waite Tarot, our featured tarot deck for the month. And we're going to accompany that with some oracle energies, this beautiful Song of the Grandmothers oracle. And then because we are ending this week with a lunation, we're going to pull from the Queen of the Moon oracle as well to get that overarching energy we'll be tapping into for the full moon in Libra. I'll be diving in deeper with the Empowerment full moon reading. So as always, that is available if you'd like to join. If you're already with me for the Empowerment Pack this month, we will be rolling right into that. Or else, of course, check out in the end. I'll share links here for you to join me for that a la carte reading where we'll be diving into that energy for sure. So let's start with our Song of the Grandmothers to get us an oracle message at the top here. Yeah, I don't know. It's just the flame's getting low enough that it's not getting it going. So that is that beautiful symbol of the metamorphosis and change and transformation that's going on right now for all. Of course, we're all in various stages, and some of that include perhaps one that's less showy, less apparent that the transformation is taking place, and we can feel frustrated when it seems to have ground to a halt, or we're not making the progress that we thought we might by now, etc., when actually we're continually encouraged to have that faith that what you have planted and what you have set into motion is working, even when we can't always see the obvious effects of it. So I'm just letting that give me some inspired spiritual breadcrumbs as it's a practical application there of the way in which it can symbolize some of the energy that's coming in here for the week ahead. So let's see what's coming in from the Song of the Grandmothers as an oracle message to kick off what's coming through for this week. Ooh, Grandmother Rose, unconditional love, unfold heart treasure, love's perfume envelops you, never holding back. Number 7, Yeah, ever unfolding rose. Beautiful energy there. We will dive into that to start us off when we tap into the messages. Got a little rose quartz egg happening to be sitting right there. So we'll just push that over that way. And let's see about our tarot energy for the week ahead and what's coming up. Here, I'm going to shuffle up and we'll get ready for our 5-card spread to tune into for Monday, kicking off the week. See what's coming in as an overarching energy. 1 card for Monday. There we go. Okay, 1 card. Ooh. One of the hermits. Just, wouldn't it be funny if they both did? Yeah, a little fun fact about this deck. There's actually 2 different hermits. One has this very direct stream of light coming from the lantern into a rabbit hole of all things. And then the other one has many beams that are going in all different directions and is in more of a cave-like surrounding as opposed to this wooded area. And I think it's kind of cool that here we are, Year of the Hermit, frequency of this universal year 9. We're working with a deck that has 2 hermits in it that both convey perhaps different interpretations or ways that we may connect in with that energy. So I love the idea that one or both can come out at any time. But I'm not feeling it for that one. They had some jumpy cards there. So I'm just going to ask again for 1 card for Monday. Setting the tone for the week ahead. Yeah, chunks of cards are falling out now. Ooh, yeah. Chunks of cards, clusters, if we will. Again, that's what I'm saying, like this rainbow ray energy. It's like wherever you are on the spectrum, you know, and however it's hitting, because there's a whole lot. So it could be, there's a lot of energy to sift through here. So let's get most aligned card for us as a collective coming in here whenever you receive these messages. What's coming up? 1 card. Okay. Knight of Pentacles. Okay, so a little offering coming in here with the seed, and it's definitely a slow and steady frequency. So we do have this offering coming in with the Knight of Pentacles to start things off. And then Tuesday speaks to a potential block or challenge this week. Potential block or challenge coming in for Tuesday. Remember, of course, time is not linear, so these are just placeholders for the week, but all of these cards are working together, weaving a story. And you're always invited to take what resonates and leave the rest. That's how it works with a collective reading. Whatever isn't resonating, you can just leave for the next person. There's always someone there to pick it up. But I do love hearing from you as to how the wacky and wild ways that these cards come forward for us all so uniquely. Oh my goodness, just throwing the cards all over the place tonight. All right, 1 card for Tuesday, please. The Star coming in here, the card of wishes, of hope and renewal, feeling challenged. So we'll talk about the ways in which that can present itself as a challenge. The Star is the Aquarius card of the major arcana and bringing forward this beautiful celestial energy of hope, of renewal, of healing, wishes, and really keeping focused on that true North Star in the midst of a lot of other shiny things vying for our attention. So it could be something about keeping our eye on the prize in the midst of all of the other streams of energy that we are navigating at this time, but we'll see. Oy, 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 the shuffling is irking me. I don't like the way this is shuffling. All right, let's get it together. Wednesday, midweek blessing. Wednesday. The 4 of Pentacles, a frequent flyer up in here for months. We have had the 4 of Pentacles on repeat. Here it is as a midweek blessing. So it's talking about what we are saving and investing in and holding on to. And it does speak to financial aspects and investments of those type of physical material matter. etc. So we'll see how that is coming in as our midweek blessing. And then we have Thursday for how we are growing. How are we growing this week? There it is, the other Fool. So as I've mentioned before, we have 2 Fools in this deck. So it is bringing in the frequency of that 0, come full circle, reset, start, clean slate, beginning, and opportunity for just being open and curious and expectant for adventure. And whatever comes our way, there's going to be something there to experience, no doubt. And so there's definitely a very hopeful, happy, go lucky type energy that comes in here with that card for Thursday. And then Friday, wrapping up the week. And again, this will be just before, as we go into the weekend, that full moon in Libra that we'll be diving into more deeply in the Empowerment Full Moon reading. We're going to see here in just a few moments what card comes forward to start off those energies from the Queen of the Moon. But Friday wraps up the week, brings us into those full moon energies. This fell back down. Friday. 3 of Wands, another one I've been seeing quite a bit. It's a card that speaks to, waiting for our ship to come in as other ships have sailed, and really assessing from a past, present, future perspective of how we're going to wield our wands in the world. The wands are the fire, the sparks, the action, our work, our passions, our desires. And we're not just jumping in there all willy-nilly, hopping on whatever which boat comes our way. There's a sense of, really authentic planning for the future, observing and planning. So there's definitely a sense of new beginnings on the horizon here at the end of the week. So that'll be interesting to kind of weave together what each of these cards are saying collectively for our week ahead. And now let's pick our Queen of the Moon Oracle card that's going to be the overarching energy for the full moon in Libra. It's coming in across the 12th, 13th, depending on where you are in the world. And like I said, we will continue the conversation with this card. We'll touch on it here today, and then we will be using that to start the exploration into this lunation from the Empowerment Full Moon reading. So let's see, one card from the Queen of the Moon. Protection. So this is card 24 coming in with the energy of protection. So bringing in a 6 frequency as a 24, which definitely aligns for me with Libra, the sign of relationships, balance. Number 6 also holding that frequency of healing, harmony, and balance in relationships. But there is sort of this vulnerable feeling of sort of being in that fetal position in the nest, and this energy of protection coming in here. And so, we're going to talk about it here with the astrological weather in terms of the retrogrades we've been navigating and the way in which that's been putting the spotlight on relationships and those dynamics where we could be sort of in this fragile, vulnerable state as we're moving through all of those dynamics and gearing up for this, the culmination energy of this full moon that's coming in here at the end of this week. So we shall check into that. So we're going to get started here. If you would like a personal card pull this week, that is something that I offer for you. If you would like to reach out in any way that works for you, quick reply here or send me a message, and I will be in this week to pull you a card that will go with these cards that we'll be tapping into here tonight. So just let me know there. Let's get started and check out some of this astrological weather. All right, let's start right here with the big headline of Mercury retrograde being over as of tomorrow, April 7th. Mercury stations direct. So Mercury will be stationing direct in Pisces after being retrograde since March 15th. Now, Mercury stationed retrograde shortly after the blood moon eclipse on March 14th. So, like I was saying, with these changing of states where we kind of have sort of an uptick in the energies that have been stirred during those periods. So what we may find is here, as Mercury stations direct, some more information could unravel from that time period of the blood moon eclipse on March 14th. As Mercury is emerging from the underworld. So pay attention to signs and messages that are sent your way right now. Mercury rules communication, the mind, and just this energy that could be coming forward with some clarity that could come in, a light bulb moment, possibly having a strong realization about something in your life. And it could just be instantaneous, like something that you've been tripping over for a long time or really spinning your wheels on, and suddenly it just clicks. Now, we also have this beautiful graphic from Moon and Cactus here talking about some of the things that you can do to acknowledge this event here with Mercury retrograde ending. Forgive yourself for mistakes that you made. You're only human. So bring in the vibration of forgiveness. Celebrate what you've accomplished, no matter how small. Rejoice in knowing that communications will go back to normal. So if it's been really strained or difficult with communicating, we feel like we're speaking a different language, like we're just not jiving with others, or we feel like people just don't understand us, or the words come out all wrong, or however we may be experiencing some of that friction and frenetic energy that we've been moving through, know that is now smoothing out. Forgive yourself for not completing everything you wanted to. So again, holding that space with grace for self first, so that can then take root and ripple out, branch out, grow out from you, starting within. And with this, energy will begin to flow more freely and clarity will return. So it's an excellent time to set some new goals. So now as we ramp up to the full moon at the end of this week, with, things culminating, completing, finishing, ending, releasing, forgiving, all of the full moony things, it's a good time then, as we're making space and clearing out and maybe kind of going over inventory of everything that was sort of drudged up during this retrograde period, that we can then plant some new seeds and some new intentions in their place. Let's take a look now at the rest of our astrological weather this week. So now also on Monday, April 7th, we have Venus conjunct Saturn. Now last week, as I was just introducing us to some of the overall astrology for the month and specifically for the first week, I talked about Venus, Saturn, and the North Node, and even Mercury all hovering rather close together, and how this was going to have layers of impact. So here we're talking about this day, April 7th, is where we experience the strongest fusion of Venus and Saturn. So once again, this can point to some deep karmic clearing when it comes to our hearts. This is where relationships have been on blast, and this is master teacher energy coming in with Saturn, with some tough love sometimes. Because with that power of Saturn, we may be feeling that a more practical approach is needed. Now that Venus is in Pisces, it's a little more of that, imaginative, dreamy, kind of fluid, sort of, untethered, ungrounded kind of energy. And Saturn is saying, hold up, wait a second, a little more practical approach may be called for here. So we may have to set some boundaries with others and maybe challenge some uncomfortable relationship dynamics. Perhaps set limits around what we're willing to tolerate. So we see where the tough love comes in. We see where the cleanup comes in. And, just in time here with Mercury stationing direct, where we may have to hold some of those uncomfortable conversations, setting of those boundaries, and, tweaking of dynamics. So there could be also a need for us to protect our heart space and to stand up for what we truly believe in. Because Venus is still in retrograde. So this could be a power time for healing some old relationship patterns for good. And this is what I'm feeling with that protection card coming in from the Queen of the Moon, the new beginnings and the planning for the future coming in at the end of the week really starts to turn over. And, you know, it also adds some meaning for me to the star card in Tuesday's position for a potential block or challenge. You know, when we talk about the things that we were hoping for renewal, for wishes and such, when it comes to those dynamics in relationships, there could be some old wishes and some old, you know, focal points that we were really kind of putting our energy into that we may need to pivot away from in order to create a new dynamic that is sustainable, or that does feel aligned, or you know, has more equity when it comes to the Libran influence that's coming in with the full moon. So, you know, all kinds of things that are in the mix there that I'm tapping into with this astrological weather. So then from the 7th, now we're going to take a look at April 12th, which is actually next Saturday. So really I'm just highlighting a couple of main things here, but we have some overlap with things happening Saturday into Sunday. And since I'll be back next Sunday to talk about the incoming, you know, astrological weather on the other side, but I like to kind of dip into what's coming up since it all definitely filters back into this week. So I'm going to talk about these three aspects that we're highlighting for next weekend. So April 12th, Saturday, Sun Chiron conjunction. And this is a beautiful energy, the annual meeting of the Sun and Chiron, which is a beautiful union that allows healing energy to flow. So with all the retrogrades, eclipses, and karmic cycles that are being shattered with these karmic cycles over the last month, this is a power day to celebrate, there's that word again, celebrate all that you are and to honor the skin that you are in, loving you as you. Chiron in Aries teaches us that we are most powerful right where we are. We don't need anything outside of ourselves, and we don't need to be, quote, perfectly healed, if there was ever such a thing, in order to lead a beautiful life. So Chiron uniting with the Sun represents a rebirth when it comes to our wounding. It offers us a fresh start, and it holds the promise that we can move forward even if we have traumas and pain. Suffering is a part of life, but Chiron teaches us that these wounds of suffering can help to make us who we are. Our own unique blend of insight, awareness, wisdom. They shape the softest parts of ourselves, and they often give rise to greater compassion, wisdom, and even psychic gifts, you know, uncovering those senses and abilities that we all have. So honor where you are currently, and know that true healing is not the absence of wounds, but the acceptance of them. You see, that's really powerful, because we may have this sense that in order to be truly, officially, finally healed, it would mean that everything is right as rain and there's no scars, there's no wounds, maybe even active wounds that we're working on. And that's not the case. So it's a beautiful energy of finding the acceptance of them, and not just despite them, but because of them, that we are this beautiful, unique life force that we each are. So fold your wounds into the fabric of your being and pursue all that lights you up. So that is a beautiful energy to be in joining in the Sun Chiron conjunction with the incoming full moon in Libra, which once again, same day, Saturday, April 12th into Sunday the 13th, full moon in Libra. So the full moon arrives in the sign of Libra. And this full moon is connected to the solar eclipse that we had back on March 29th. So again, this means that more information from that time period could come to light, or we may start to recognize all of the healing work that we've been doing. We may even start to feel that it's paid off for us, right? We may start to see some of this evidence of this traction of what's coming in. And now I'm looking at that Knight of Pentacles to know that it's slow, it's steady, but it is sure. So we may be starting to see some movement there. Now, as I mentioned, this energy of Chiron is still very active under this full moon, so we can lean into this beautiful healing energy and really recognize how your wounds have led you to a greater wisdom. Mars is also active under this full moon, so that's creating some tension, bringing in some heat and fire there. So we may see this tension playing out in the world around us, or we may feel somewhat unsettled in our being. Mars can bring heated emotions to the surface, so we may find ourselves unearthing some repressed emotions or needing to let our anger have an outlet. You know, again, this is definitely a time that there's a lot of this, bumpy, tumultuous, crunchy energy that we see playing out on the world stage. So to the extent that each one of us can affect that, as it kind of flares up or makes itself known in a unique way in our orbits, in our microcosms, what can we do? And bringing in some type of a practice with getting grounded, with clearing, with breath, with, whatever works for you in terms of allowing to let some of that have an outlet. Use the anger or the heat, the lower vibrational emotions, to vent, to let out. And in so doing, we're able to transmute that into a higher vibration. So again, a little bit of sweet, a little bit of sour, a little bit of heat, a little bit of this beautiful blend, a little bit of everything coming in, of course, appropriately so with the scales of Libra for this full moon. So if you're really feeling that, this is where I encourage you to join me for the Empowerment Full Moon reading, where we will go deeper. We'll have more depth in this, the weather that is happening around it energetically, the ritual and a spread and more. So parking that there for your contemplation. And then we have one last aspect to speak of. Retrogrades, be darned. Yet again, we've got one stationing direct. This time it is Venus. Woohoo! Feels like that's been a long time. Venus has been retrograde since March 1st, so well over a month now. Venus, 12th into 13th, again, Saturday, Sunday, finally stationing direct since this long retrograde. It feels like, that we're moving away from this retrograde season that began the first part of our year. So since December of 2024, all the planets closest to the sun, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, have been in retrograde. That is very significant. This has definitely created a retrograde season that we've been working with. So, chances are a lot of our attention has been turned to the past. And perhaps we've all felt a lot of clearing taking place, things that are coming up for review, things that are either being removed from our lives or that we're feeling the nudge to remove. So, we may have been finding ourselves sort of moving slowly or perhaps even needing to backtrack several times. Remember, I was talking about that energy last month where 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, and then ultimately 2.5 steps forward. So there's a little inching. Once again, that Knight of Pentacles winking at us with the slow and steady. So this energy is now on the way out. And hopefully we've been able to learn and seek wisdom from our past. So with Venus stationing direct, we may also receive some information that helps to open and heal our heart space. And Venus may reveal to us this to us now slowly over these coming weeks as she emerges into her full strength. So remember, with retrogrades, there's a pre-shadow before it stations retrograde, and there's a post-shadow once it stations direct. So both Mercury and Venus at the top of this week and at the end of this week, stationing direct, starting to have some forward moving momentum. But just like that 3 of Wands is finishing out our week, there isn't movement so much yet as there is observation, contemplation in the planning. So we may start to slowly have things being revealed to us. And either way, our heart space has been reborn and we're now ready to welcome in these fresh energies that are on offer to us. So this is where we start to turn a little corner, start picking up some momentum. So that's exciting and already feels a little lighter just thinking about it. So let's go see now how the cards are weaving in with these messages this week as we go. We're going to start with our Song of the Grandmother's Oracle message. So here we have a message starting us off with Grandmother Rose, this energy of unconditional love. Intimate, lush, and tinged with pink, Grandmother Rose opens herself to us without any reservation whatsoever. Her vulnerability inspires reverence for each and every velvety curve that folds around her heart. Greeting us with the gentlest of hugs, her fragrance saturates our senses with benevolence. There's no doubt about it, roses are easy to love. What if the universe feels exactly the same way about you? Grandmother Rose arrives with an eternal yes to this inquiry. All of your unique layers are cherished too. She comes to you today as an ambassador of the unconditional love that surrounds you all the time. She invites you to see yourself the way you are seen. So instead of shifting your gaze in embarrassment or self-reproach, look deeply into her eyes. Can you see yourself reflected there? And she says to you, unconditional love is the most powerful force in the universe. Opening yourself to receive it is never selfish. Embracing yourself without judgment creates even more capacity to share it with those in your life. Look how I delight and thrive and freely share my love with everyone I meet. Sweetheart, you can do the same. So it's unfold, heart treasure, love's perfume envelops you, never holding back. I love how it's saying that she invites you to see yourself the way you are seen. You know, I was just talking to a friend about this earlier today. Oftentimes when we look back to, younger years or other times where we may have seen ourselves a particular way, and now we could look back and think like, wow, this is a time where I was sure that I was, whatever, fill in the blank of some descriptor of thinking we were too much of something, not enough of something else, comparisonitis running rampant, feeling very vulnerable and like under the microscope what people were saying. I was just telling my daughter about this today because we were talking about, sometimes with women, for example, we were speaking of, all of the worry and concern that goes into, let's say, something that we're wearing to a particular event. I can remember with a friend of mine, having to meticulously plan these outfits and shoes and stressing over if they didn't match just right or being just so. And then realizing in retrospect that if, let's say we were going to a banquet or something, that most of the night we're sitting at a table with our feet under a under a tablecloth and nobody saw our shoes. And also no one was looking at our shoes. And not that it's about what everyone thinks, but that's sure what we thought, And so again, this is just one silly example, but it's to say that we have sometimes some very fixed ideas about what everyone sees when they look at us or what they're thinking or how we're going to come across. And it tends to be tinted in a somewhat hypercritical or judgmental lens often. And so this is an invitation from Grandmother Rose to allow yourself to see you the way others see you, which more often than not is going to be much more favorable than perhaps one perspective that we've been holding on to for a very long time. And, suffice it to say, if we've been letting that one perspective rule the roost for quite some time, how about we consider just parking that and trying on a new lens, trying on another perspective that looks at us and celebrates maybe, speaking of our scars, how they can remind us of something really amazing that we did, birthing humans into the world, or, experiencing something that, again, there can be lasting physical effects or mental or emotional impacts from things that we have endured or experienced that actually speak to how resilient we are and our tenacity and our abilities to rebound and come back and battle back in many cases. And so, rather than letting them be a reminder of the time that something didn't go the way we planned, or that something was very painful or very difficult, or any host of, things, that we are offering ourselves another way of looking at it. So again, if there's something in there for you that rings true, consider that, because I think that's a really beautiful suggestion in the midst of all of this, extending forgiveness and compassion first to ourselves, that we entertain Grandmother Rose's suggestion that we see ourselves the way others see us, and certainly like a loving, doting grandmother may see us. So let's take that into now our tarot cards for the week and see what's coming in with our week ahead spread. All right, we are starting off here with Monday and taking a look here at this Knight of Pentacles. So bringing in that slowest moving suit of the tarot, very slow, steady, reliable, bringing in this earth energy. And as I look here at the spring weight guidance that is coming in with this one, it confirms that actually this is a Clydesdale horse, which we know is a very strong, sturdy, powerful workhorse. So the knight coming in, knights are typically associated with some type of action oriented to the suit that it's in. Here with the pentacles, we're talking about earth energy. We're talking about slow and steady. The knight comes in overlooking his plowed field. And so the horse, being this Clydesdale workhorse, they're the ones that are responsible together for plowing the field. So on the horse's head, we actually see that there are what is said to be oak leaves. And oak is said to symbolize strength, stability, and endurance, all of which relate very well to this energy of the Knight of Pentacles. So the figure is a dependable man and will make a dedicated and good partner. He will probably be financially secure, or at least is working on a plan to eventually be so. Now that's interesting, knowing that the other Pentacles energy coming in this week is the Four of Pentacles in Wednesday's position as a midweek blessing that has to do with the savings and the planning. And again, yes, this can be literally about pentacles, about money, finances, and so forth. But I know that in the US, we're coming up on the tax time, and there's all kinds of talk about money these days everywhere. So I feel like this is sort of setting a tone that, like, yes, that is one of the main themes that we're experiencing as a collective right now, and rightfully so. Venus being in retrograde, and Venus is all about, in addition to our relationships and, or, orientation with ourselves in terms of self-love and self-care and us in relationship, finances, money, and worth are all a huge part of that, not to be confused with incoming Taurus season later this month as well. So this will continue to be a theme that's playing out. So I think this is really just kind of bringing in this deposit, this token of, yes, slow, steady, we're plowing the fields, and it's a task for a workhorse. And so in the way that we're really feeling that, just not being very clear on the process that it takes to plow a field myself, to give the analogy justice, but I imagine that just within our own small gardens and areas, if we've ever been familiar with kind of making our way through rocky soil and a lot of roots and, things that may come up along the way that make it less than a smooth process, it may be calling for some elbow grease, so there is that sense of slow, steady, but also dedicated and perseverance being called for there. So we'll see how that continues to unfold, but that is a personality energy that's popping in. It does mention it being, a dedicated and good partner. So there is a sense of, if we're talking about advisors or any kind of partnerships or, discussions around those types of things, that's an energy that's coming forward as well. All right, let's take a look now at Tuesday's energy for potential block or challenge. All right, Tuesday coming in here with our one of two major arcana cards this week. It is the beautiful Star, the card of renewal, hope, wishes. And this, like I mentioned in the card pull, is the Aquarius card of the tarot. It is card number 17. So it's holding that frequency of the number 8, which is giving us that infinity energy of the cyclical. And we see how the water is being poured by the water bearer from both hands and on ground, but also in water. So there's this sense of one foot is in the water, one foot is on land. And so there is, again, this beautiful balancing and bringing in, and this could be something that we're struggling to get, because of it being murky and unclear, or in the sense of, how could this be a potential block or challenge? We're talking about perhaps a loss of faith, diminished hope, feeling disappointment, missed opportunities. There can be an oversensitivity or just a feeling of, even despair, on any end of the spectrum, because, things that we're wishing, hoping, been pouring everything into, that maybe we don't see the progress that we expected to see, or there's some sort of concern around whether these investments are going to prove to be successful, lucrative, sustainable, etc., that there's an uncertainty there. And so that can cause some friction in the way of the stuff of dreams and wishes and hopes being fulfilled. Now, here in the spring wait, it's speaking to the dynamics we see on the card. It's a naked woman pouring water onto the ground and water into a lake. Above her are a total of 7 stars. And it says this card represents hopes and dreams and can indicate an ambition to be in show business or to have a podcast, a social media presence, or all of these sorts of things. So again, whether we're talking about being seen in the sense of, on the stage, like a star, in this case, like it's talking about a wider platform, or even just comfort in letting ourselves be seen at all. Interesting that, we have here 2 naked depictions that are showing this sense of vulnerability and fragility and, exposure. And so, as we're stepping into or being invited to step into more and more authentic versions of us, and we're speaking our truths, and we're saying the thing, and we're laying the boundaries, and we're doing the stuff that we've been talking about in these cards so far and in the energetic weather this week that could call for, some correction in boundaries and guidelines in relationship. Those things can leave us feeling a little vulnerable, can leave us feeling on some shaky ground, here as we're trying to find those bearings. So, the star could be coming in that way with this message of not to lose hope and trust that and I've mentioned this recently, repeatedly, because it's such an important thing to bear in mind, that what is meant for me will never pass me by. So that no matter what I'm hoping, wishing, planting, attempting to build, to save, to create in my life, whether I'm seeing the physical manifestation of that yet or not, from the moment that I conceived of the wish, the universe got to work on making this or something better my reality. So tuning into that frequency and keeping that eye on the prize in the midst of all of the other sparkly and shiny things that vie for our attention, and maybe, in some ways diminishing our hope or diminishing our faith in what we are waiting to see in the physical that we have been creating through this more intangible way with our hopes and wishes and dreams and those sparks. So, I think it's hold on to hope and to keep your eye on the prize. So let's take a look now at Wednesday for our midweek blessing. All right, Wednesday, bringing forward one of those frequent flyers. I've talked a lot about this Four of Pentacles, this card of holding on tightly, of investments, of even sometimes hoarding energy. There's a number of different ways that this card can present itself. Some more lucrative than others. So let's feel into this energy of the four, which I talked about on Friday. We had the 4-4 portal, right? And I talked about the energy of the number four, the structure, the stability, and the sense of the four legs of a chair, or a table, creating this balance, stability. Right. So the Four of Pentacles, a young man sits on a park bench. He is accompanied by a pigeon and a dog. The dog is begging, trying to get his attention. However, the man is so focused on his pentacles that he has no time for these distractions. This card represents saving money, sometimes even to one's detriment. So a little miserly energy there. On the plus side, his being frugal has benefits. He will probably always have money, enough at least to get by on the essentials. However, in business, there's a saying that you have to spend money to make money. And so depending on the situation, when it comes to holding on to money in business, he may benefit from some encouragement to let go a little. So, of course, that's a very specific traditional interpretation that's all about, money and finance. And surely for some that may be the case, especially because we also have that Knight of Pentacles. And we talked about lucrative business partnerships and advisements and, slow and steady and maybe not seeing results right away, but eventually seeing them, or tucking things away maybe for a rainy day, a little nest egg type situation. So there could be some things that you're saving or refinancing, or in some way, looking to pinch those pennies a little bit. Sure, for some people, this is a collective reading, so it's going to vary because, again, there is also, I give this analogy with the fist. When we're holding on very tightly to things, we're not able to pick up anything new. We have the Fool trying to come in here. We have the future-focused Three of Wands coming in to say, where to from here? I want to expand. We kicked everything off, bringing in the Rainbow Ray for upgrade and expansion. And if I'm still holding on really tightly, trying not to, lose my grip on something old, something I'm bringing with me, that may not be advisable. I may have an opportunity to open up and to release some things. And, like I said, there can be that sense of hoarding to say that we're really holding on tightly to some things for fear of ... that actually we may be presented with opportunities to lighten some of that, to let go, whether it is simply in the form of, spring cleaning, decluttering, paying forward, donating some things that are no longer serving, just different ways that we can embrace that when we put something forward, when we give something freely, that we're setting forward this reciprocal energy in the universe to create space for us to then be open to receive as well. So there could be some energy there when it comes to, shedding and letting go of some things, especially ramping up to that full moon in Libra, that what do we want to release and let go so that we can create room for new? And then as we get through the rest of this week, we'll see that there's a lot encouraging us to turn toward that being our focus for this new space we've created and what we're going to be exploring next. So let's take a look at Thursday's energy. So here we go. Thursday is bringing in the Fool. And as I've mentioned, this deck has two of them. So we're not seeing double. We've got the Fool coming in here with this opportunity for new beginnings, fresh starts, being open to adventure with curious mind and open heart. Or maybe we want to flip that around and say we have an open mind and a curious heart. Whatever it is, it's light and open and feeling like new opportunities coming in with this little bunny there at his feet. So let's take a look then at spring weight. Coming in with this Fool, the beautiful wings of a butterfly flutter upon a man wearing a daffodil patterned tunic. In his hand, he holds a daffodil. He is blissfully unaware of the dangers that lie ahead. Rather than a dog by his side, we see a white rabbit. This card can be a positive card, reminding one to be carefree and optimistic. But of course, in the negative, this can be to one's detriment. So he's not looking where he's going, and danger may be just ahead. So I think we want to, like I said, we want to be footloose and fancy free, open, whatever comes our way, but also, use your discretion, use your discernment, don't just, follow off of a cliff just because that's where, the peanut gallery is heading. You really want to be deciding, and this could pair with that Four of Pentacles to say, do I want to invest in that? Do I want to participate in that? Am I going to pay into that? In terms of, am I just kind of getting like a Pied Piper? It's kind of funny how that's lining up here, Fool and Fool on either side of the star. So let that speak to us, that we're kind of sandwiching in the two different ways to look at the Fool. Being one is like, yes, blissfully unaware. We're open. We're not judging. We're not marred. It's like a clean slate energy. But on the other hand, not to the point of being reckless. And just walking into something just because that's just the way that things are going. And we don't even see that we're coming to a cliff. So how are we growing? And this one always tends to feel more into the collective energies because it's us, what are we doing here when we're using our intuition to tap into these beautiful tools? We bring our energy together to see like, hey, what's coming in this week energetically that we can tap into with our free will choice to decide, kind of armed with that information, with those insights, we can make informed free will choices. So, when it comes to our wishes, our hopes, and what we're pouring into, I'm just kind of speaking to this coming through like this, that we have this sense of, yes, we want to loosen up. We want to release and shed, some of this dense energy. We want to be open for new experiences and keeping our eye on, what's possible, even if that's not the reality that we see in front of us right now. And also, we want to remain vigilant in using our discernment and our good judgment and not just following blindly in any direction. Or, if it's anything but that other direction, don't allow that to give a pass to anything else that comes along. You see what I'm saying? Where we would just decide to go along with anything but. Because then we're also not truly using our discernment. It's more reactionary and much more subjective. So again, I don't know exactly, it's just feeling like, we're still in the fray of all these, like I said, planets stationing direct, but we're still going to have these post shadows. We're going to have this ramping up of, both in the energetic weather. I touched on both of the eclipses in March coming back around again as we're finishing out cycles that harken us back to the blood moon eclipse. That's solar eclipse as well with the new moon. So, these are all energies that are all still impacting us and rippling. So again, even though it's not here today, that when I look outside, it's not eclipse season anymore, but I'm still experiencing the effects and it's still unfolding to where, it's calling for some having our wits about us. We want to be a fool in the sense of staying open, staying curious, but also being vigilant when it comes to following your own authentic guidance and using your discernment. So now as we do that, let's take a look at our final card for Friday. All right, finally Friday, bringing in the last of our tarot cards for the week. We've got the Three of Wands coming in to wrap up the week, which really feels quite appropriate given that this is that card of standing in this moment all at once where we have the past, the present, and the future at our disposal. And we talked about the way in which we're just now, as we hit Friday and we start to move into the weekend with Venus then stationing direct, with the full moon, with the, all of the things that are on deck for April 12th and 13th. that we would be pivoting from more of a past focus, looking at the past and going back over things, which is what this wand represents, toward the future, and doing so from the present in this moment, what's tangible, what we can actually hold on to at this time, that we're seeing from a vantage point that's allowing us all at once to glimpse the three, but being here now. And the wands bring the fire and the inspiration. It is still Aries season here. So we're talking about our desires and our passions and how we wish to wield our wands in the world. We see the ship there, and I like to look at it like waiting for our ship to come in, but we're also seeing ships that have sailed. And this is a la those relationships, those dynamics, those old boundaries that are no more, that we're needing to refresh and upgrade. And, and again, we came in here with upgrade and expansion energy with the rainbow ray. So we want to really feel into, again, look at those birds kind of flying off in the distance. There's this sense of things that are leaving and things that are just coming in, and being here now in this state of observation from this neutral vantage point. So the spring weight says of this card, a man looks out to sea and sees a ship coming in. He is sometimes thought to be a merchant, and he is awaiting the goods he has previously purchased to make their way to shore. It is a card of waiting. Anyone in business who has purchased products that can take weeks, even months to finally arrive, know this feeling all too well. We can feel a little impatient as we wait for the cargo to arrive, but when it does, we will be experiencing that as a welcome sight. I know this card came up for someone. I don't think it was in our collective last week. I think it was somebody's month ahead reading, because I know I just talked about that, because it was like, perhaps we're waiting on a package. We're waiting for something to come in, literally, like arriving. And the fact that it's referencing business and being a merchant and things that can take time. And it's interesting because the wands are a fast, fiery energy. Look, once again, we're at a complete standstill with that fire, with the flame back there. Until I get it going again, it stopped. So interesting, because we talked about the pentacles being slow and steady and calling for patience and, dedication and steadfastness, whereas the wands will typically come in like flash of insights, sudden awarenesses, sudden impulses, sudden inspirations. And yet this is specifically saying it can take weeks and even months finally arriving. So even with the return of the sparks and the fire and the inspiration and the movement and the clarity on where to from here are all things that can take time. And there's a whole lot of ways we can talk about time as well, and the way that we're experiencing time and so much there. So I think that this is a beautiful card to kind of cap off the week right as we're on the precipice of this first lunation post-eclipse, where we will again be digging deeper and unpacking all that it has on offer with all the different aspects around it that I touched on in the energetic weather. We're going to talk in a moment about the Queen of the Moon Oracle card that came in. But again, all things we'll be diving into in the Empowerment Full Moon reading for those who'd like to join. So as we wrap up the week here, we're just at this impasse and this precipice of past, present, future. So be here now, channeling our inner fool, really hunkering down and grounding into the pentacles energy that are coming up this week, all while keeping sight of our dreams, our hopes, our wishes, and the faith in this passage of time, and understanding that it's all serving. Every stage, every phase that we're moving through right now all have a purpose. So, once again, if you would like a personal card pull this week, please feel free to reach out, and I'll be offering those as we get into the week. And I will, pull a personal message just for you in light of these energies that have come forward. Now let's take a look at our final card for the week, the Queen of the Moon Oracle message. So here we have the Queen of the Moon Oracle message, protection, coming forward. And as I look here at the mantra with this card, it says, I am loved and protected. So it seems to be a reminder that although we may feel very exposed and vulnerable and in a state of, maybe, like I said, crawling into the fetal position and just wanting to be in the nest, that we are being carried and supported, and that there is help around us, and to allow that help to guide us through, so that while we're feeling maybe more protective or vulnerable in this way, because we're in this, again, we were talking about the chrysalis and the butterfly metamorphosis process, and the notion that when we're in a state where we don't yet see the manifestation of everything that we've been working toward, there is that mushy state of being where we're not there yet. And so in that vulnerable state, recognize that you are safe, and it's speaking to your higher power, however you describe it, being a loving and protective energy, and that you are loved and protected. So identify your fears and protect yourself, and trust in yourself, and know that you are supported. So I know we had some lean on me energy that came up last week as we ended the week with the double tens. We had the 10 of swords and the 10 of wands, and the 10 of wands was the one that ended out our week saying, do you need to hold all those wands all by yourself all at the same time? And it was bringing in that lean on me energy. So I think, this Libra full moon is coming in with this notion of, as we talk about balancing the scales in our relationships and allowing ourselves to be cared for and supported and to feel protected in the process. But again, we're going to dive much deeper into that in the Empowerment Full Moon reading. But just to give you a little taste of what was coming forward here collectively as an overarching energy, we have protection. So thank you so much again for being here. If you would like a personal card pull, feel free to let me know. If you're interested in the full moon empowerment reading, check out that link either in the caption or here in the Empowerment Sharecast. Have a beautiful week, and we'll talk soon.